the amount of value that you get is bonkers. Yeah, I would say just don't even hesitate. If you're in the WordPress space, even if you're just running a small business, there's just so many nuggets that you can take, and there's always these added tracks and value and webinars and these learning opportunities that are there and just built into the program. The Facebook group in and of itself is totally worth it.
Welcome to the WP Elevation Business Podcast. I'm your host, Ray Miladoni, and I'm excited because you're about to meet an elevator. Why is that so exciting? Well, over the years as the marketing manager, I've been getting lots of emails asking what's life like after implementing the blueprint. Is it something that can really dramatically change my life? Well, you're in luck, because we're going to meet elevators who have actually walked the walk. They're action takers. They're people who have implemented the learning and followed the process and trusted that it's all going to be okay. Now, you do need to put in the work in order to get the results, but the people you're going to meet in this series are the ones that have taken action and gone through the struggles, the ups and downs of an entrepreneur, and now at the other end, living life and enjoying where they have come and how far they've come. Now, it's hard to share what the community's like, but hopefully you can get a bit of a feel of it through the stories that the elevators share. Unfortunately, the community, you need to be a member of it to kind of get that first-hand feeling. But the community is definitely something in the WP Elevation Blueprint that is really unique and special, and is kind of the people that you can lean to when times get tough. And through some of these stories, you'll hear that people do lean on the community when they need that extra support or that extra motivation. So without further ado, let's go meet one of the elevators.
This is the WP Elevation Podcast, helping WordPress consultants elevate.
Hey, this episode of the WP Elevation Podcast is brought to you by WP Elevation. Well, more specifically, it's brought to you by a bunch of our happy customers. See, frankly, I feel a little bit awkward telling you how great WP Elevation is, because you're probably not going to believe me, because WP Elevation is my baby. It's something that we started over 3 years ago. Of course, now we're a team of coaches and mentors, and we have hundreds, and by the time you're listening to this, probably thousands of members all over the world. But it still really is something that I'm very passionate about. And of course, if you join WP Elevation, we make revenue and we make profit. So it's a little bit awkward if I tell you how great it is, because you probably think I'm just trying to sell you on it. And partially I am, because I know how beneficial the program is. So what I'd love to do instead is just introduce you to some of our customers. So if you go to wpelevation.com/thepodcast, all one word, you'll be able to hear some of those stories from our customers and hear for yourself how WP Elevation has impacted their business and changed their lives. I hope you enjoy that, and I hope you check it out at some point. Right now, let's get back to the podcast.
Hi, Tara. How you doing?
Great. How are you? It's nice to see you.
Good. Welcome to the WP Business Podcast.
Thank you very much. I'm really excited to be here.
Excellent. Well, likewise, I'm really excited to hear your story and explore how the blueprint has worked for you. But before we do that, why don't you share with our listeners a little bit about you and what your business is all about?
Well, my business is called Alchemy 3, which is a small business that I run out of a very tiny office in downtown Concord, Massachusetts, which is on the East Coast in the US. We concentrate, and by we, I mean myself and a very small team. We concentrate on small to medium-sized businesses, particularly female-owned businesses. Our goal is to sort of help them realize their power and step into success and figure out what makes them feel most comfortable. And we help them hone their digital marketing strategy. We also, of course, do website design. We have maintenance packages and that kind of thing. I'm also a photographer first. I was an art kid back in the day. I hated computers. So I do have that photography background as well, which I usually throw into the mix.
Love that. Love that. And have you always been around the web space, or is it something that you've newly transitioned to?
No, I've been doing this for about, that's 16 years now. So it has been a while. It's been a while. But I did start as a photographer, and I hated computers for a really long time. I wanted to live in the darkroom and in the studio, and I only wanted to make art, which I shouldn't laugh. I mean, that's a real thing. People do that.
Yeah.
Right? And I thought certainly that would be me. it wasn't until things began to clearly go digital that I realized I needed to understand computers and really get into that space in order to fully embrace the control freak that I am. I want to be able to display my work and do work for other people and have the complete package. So that's what kind of got me hooked. I got into Photoshop and I started messing around with that. And I'm largely self-taught. I did take a few classes here and there. I did get my associates in graphic design from a community college. But in terms of the web build stuff, I'm self-taught.
Love it, love it. And so how far along that journey were you before you discovered Troy Dean and the WP Elevation Blueprint?
It has been about a year. It's been a year. So a little more about me. I've been working in in-house environments on and off for a long time. I didn't realize I wasn't cut out. It took me a couple tries to realize I'm not cut out for the corporate space. It just didn't work out. I'm not good at pretending to look busy. So I was doing that on and off, and I do have a couple kids, so I took some time off to have babies and hang out with the babies, and I would sort of freelance on and off. So 10 plus years I've been doing that. I think my introduction to WP Elevation, in fact, I'm certain this is how I was introduced to WP Elevation. I saw Christina Romero give a talk at WordCamp Boston 2 years ago. And it was at the very end of that WordCamp. And it was kind of a stinker WordCamp. I wasn't really getting much out of it. And I was like, I should probably leave. This is kind of silly. But I stuck around for that last presentation. And it was Christina. And a light bulb went off because she was talking about, of course, her famous care plans and that concept of recurring revenue, right? Because I had been kind of working project to project and hustling for the next project, and I hadn't really been thinking long term. So she had mentioned, I started Googling and trying to learn about her, and somehow it led me to Troy, and somehow I got myself on the wait list. So it's only been a year. And I am also doing his Mavericks Mastermind at the moment. We're a couple months in, and so I'm clearly hooked, and I'm in for the long haul.
Love it, love it. And so what was your business like before discovering the blueprint? And then we'll do a contrast and see what it's like after.
In some ways it's not a whole lot. I'm still very by the seat of my pants. What I need to start doing is taking snapshots of my life. I'm so in the moment always because I have kids at home and this family life. Like I've essentially built this business from very part-time hours. So beforehand, I would say really the biggest change that's happened for me is realizing my worth as a web developer, as a WordPress consultant, as a marketer, as a brand specialist. And it wasn't until I did WP Elevation and also finding that community, because you do get so isolated as a freelancer, as a person who's behind their computer all the time, which is me. I'm very introverted, and that's kind of where I like to stay. So I needed to be validated, and it helped me get there mentally and kind of make that mindset shift. So beforehand, I was charging, $2,500 for websites, tops, maybe $3,000. I was getting into bigger projects, but I was a little in over my head. I didn't have the processes in place to support those things. I was kind of making it up as I went along. And after WP Elevation, I felt like I had the tools and the skills and the structure to take on more work and to have that confidence behind it. And it's just so nice to have a group of working professionals that can walk you through the process. So you don't feel like you're constantly reinventing the wheel.
Yeah. You
can reach out to your people and be like, hey, what are you using for X, Y, and Z? Great. I'm going to look into that. Done. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, love it. And I love the fact that you mentioned about the community as well, because the community is one of those hard things that's hard to share and give a glimpse until you're actually in it. And that's a great example how you can turn to the community and say, I need help with this tool, or has anyone had experience with this? And
absolutely,
the gates open and all the answers come flooding in, which I love seeing how active our members are. Can you share a time where you've turned to the community, and what do you love about it?
I love the diversity of the community. I love the various skill sets and backgrounds and the stories of people's businesses and how they got where they are. And that journey I find really fascinating. I love hearing people's stories, and I love hearing about their victories and their wins. I also love how people can get they're very real in the group. Like, people will have these rants, or they'll be like, look, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Help a sister out, right? Like, give me a little something to work with here. And a lot of people jump in, and it feels good. You feel like you have a tribe, right? Even though they're not physically there. I'm not sure if I can give you an example of really leveraging and utilizing the WP Elevation community when I was in it. But I can tell you that, so being in Troy's, the mastermind right now, there's a core group of people that I'm excited to get to know better, but we've had a chance to get to know one another on Slack channels and video chats and things. Last week, I had a little tantrum. So Google decided to shut down my account last week, which meant I lost Drive, I lost email, I lost my calendar. And it was one of those days where you're just sort of barely holding it together, and you're starting to rally. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do this webinar. I'm going to write some content. I'm going to really get it. I'm going to focus. And then Google decided to suspend my account. And that's when I was like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Why am I doing this? So I took to Slack, and everybody rallied around me, and people reached out individually and asked me how I was doing and wondered how they could help. I can jump on a call anytime if you need. Is there work? Are you overloaded? Can we pick up some of your work for you? I've got a couple team members I could toss your way. Like, that kind of stuff made all the difference in the world. I felt like I was able to recover from something that would have otherwise taken a week.
Yeah.
If I recovered, right? I may have given up.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's great. That's a great example, because, very much the community is that shoulder to lean on. And, a lot of times people are sharing stuff in the community that they don't even share with their family or their friends, because they feel like it's such a safe place and they can be vulnerable and true. And they're sharing it with people who are in the same industry. They're sometimes competitors, but they're working together because they know they can lift the industry's quality and support each other.
Exactly. Instead of undercutting each other, right? We're lifting one another up, and we're helping one another to understand that we do have worth and we do have value, and we can charge real money for this stuff. People need it.
That's right.
Absolutely. It's not just like, oh, well, I have my son-in-law can make me a website for free. Like, it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
People,
Yeah. Excellent. And so when you're doing the blueprint, share a time where you had like a bit of an aha moment, or a bit of a process that you really got and loved and couldn't wait to implement it.
The care plans, for sure. The care plans. Absolutely. Which I hate doing. So that was the first thing I handed off. But it's so, because I'm not a coder, I'm an art kid. So I kind of feel a little underqualified to provide that kind of support.
Yeah.
So now I have a person that she really knows what she's doing. But that concept of recurring revenue clicked right away for me.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of the automation pieces as well. And then I guess I have more. Now it's all coming to me. The proposal process, huge. Yeah. I was burning so much time on my proposals. Like, I would spend 13 hours on a proposal.
Wow.
Right. And so then I know what is that about?
It's a whole day and a half.
Because you're just like in your head agonizing.
Yeah.
Right. And so to have a structure and a baseline, and it's been sort of tried and true, and it's speaking to the goals in mind. Whereas before, I think I was probably talking about technology and the different things we're going to do for you and this, that, and the other thing. They don't care about that. They want to make sure that they're going to get results, and they want to make sure that you understand their business. So those are two main, I'm sure I could go on and on, but those are two big ones for me.
Yeah, excellent. And you've mentioned a couple of times that you now have a team or a small team, and it's growing. You get into outsource and so forth. Are they remote, local, and how does that look like?
I don't know I don't really know what it looks like yet. So as of yesterday, the day before, I just offered someone a full-time position.
Wow.
Remote, offshore.
That's still pretty huge, because that means you got to, feel committed to it. So it's good.
I feel committed. I feel nervous. I feel
that's good.
I've never done this before. So I'm on the cusp of having a person full-time, which I feel like it's just going to be such a game changer. I don't think I've really realized how much it's going to change, but leading up to this new adventure of hiring someone full-time, I've had several writers that I've worked with. I have a developer that I've worked with regularly. I've been doing everything myself for the most part until very, very recently. It wasn't really until WP Elevation was in full swing that I finally decided to outsource some of this stuff. I'm now realizing that I should not be building websites. Like the proposal process, I spend way too much time futzing with pixels when I could be pounding the pavement, getting more clients. And again, it goes back to, I'm an art kid. I don't know anything about business, right? So I've had to just bootstrap it, Google a bunch of stuff, talk to people on my own. So I'm in the process of figuring that out and trying to get out of my own way.
Yeah, love that. And I love the fact, because you can clearly see the way that you tell that story, that it's a journey, and you've had to go through different milestones and feel comfortable and then make the next step, because sometimes people want to fast track and they want to go from zero to hero, but it's part of that journey that's really important, to have that compounding of learning and confidence, and then that enables you to make the right choice at the right time, as opposed to just have the cards come crashing down because you wanted to do it too fast.
So I would argue that there may never really be the right time. I think that making yourself feel uncomfortable is also important, right?
Absolutely.
So this hiring of this magical person, had it not been for Troy and the team, my sort of brain trust behind me that I have now, I never would have. I was going to dip my toes in it. I was going to say, I'll hire someone for 10 hours a week and see how that works out. And they said, that doesn't make any sense. If you're going to really do it, do the thing. So then you have someone fully committed to you and your vision. And even if you don't have stuff for them to do, they could be educating, they could be working on SEO, they could be doing tutorial, they could be building your content. There's all kinds of things. So it's mindset, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And now, it wouldn't be a WP podcast if we didn't talk about some shiny object or tool. So what's your favorite tool in your toolbox?
Favorite tool in my toolbox.
And you can only have one on this one, because I know some of our WordPress toolboxes are quite large and busy.
Oh God. Does it have to be a WordPress specific tool?
No, whatever helps you get your business done right.
All right. So one thing that I get I have an unhealthy relationship with sometimes, but I really like it, is Mixmax, which is plugged in through my email. It's cool because I can track my emails. And I can, of course, you have the canned email responses, and you can send them invites to your calendar, all of those kind of wow factors. But it's the email tracking that gives me a sense of what people's levels of interests are. I know I can kind of see what's going to come back up. Maybe if I've lost track of something, I can take a peek at who's looking at what emails and be like, oh, I forgot I have to get in touch with, client A. I'm maybe a day or two late. I need to get on that. So that's one thing that I feel like I wouldn't be able to live without.
Yeah, I love that. I actually use that tool as well, and not many people know about it. But
oh, really?
Yeah, I do. It's a great little plugin, and it sits very nicely into Google Gmail, and I love seeing who's been reading. And it's always like, why is this email being read 13 times? Like, why do they keep going back to this email?
Exactly. You're like, what was it? What was that amazing thing that I wrote to them?
Yeah, that's right. Well, they must have forwarded it on to everyone. So yeah, it's good. It is a really neat little tool. I love it. There's a lot of cool features, and a lot of the features I think, why isn't this part of core in Gmail or something? So
yeah, exactly. And I had an amazing social media management opportunity, and I had this was last summer, I'd sent a proposal. I thought it was dead. I didn't think they had any interest. And 2 months later, I'm looking at the opened emails, and suddenly this email has been opened 15 times, 18 times. And sure enough, 3 hours later, I get a phone call and they're ready to hire me.
Wow.
Yeah, that was really fun.
Yeah, that's cool. It's definitely having your finger on the pulse, knowing exactly what, because with emails, it is one of those things that gets lost. You just send it and you just don't know. Yeah. And email's now almost like the slow mail. It's quicker to ping someone on Messenger or Slack or something than it is to send an email. So it definitely made me feel a bit more confident about email again. So we'll put links to that. It's called Mixmatch. And we'll put links to that in the show notes, which can always be found at wpelevation.com/podcast. And all our show notes are always there. Before we go, who is your ideal client? Who's some of the people that you're looking to work more with?
My ideal client would be a female business owner or entrepreneur. She is... I really love working with other people who love to help people. They're looking to make a positive difference in the world. I want to be excited about their business and their mission. And I find that I'm able to make emotional connections with people generally, but I have a very special connection with other women and moms in particular, because there's that balance that you have to strike. And when you want to build your own business, there are some very specific struggles that we tend to have to overcome. And again, it kind of goes back to mindset. So I would say small female business owners, possibly medium-sized business owners. That is what I'm looking for right now.
Yeah, love that. And Tara, how can they get a hold of you if they're interested to working more closely with you?
They can reach me at tara@alchemy3.com, or they can head to my website, alchemy3.com. The 3 is spelled THRE.
Excellent. And links will be in the show notes and around the podcast, depending what podcast you're listening to this with. And before we leave, is there someone thinking about joining the WP Elevation Blueprint program? What's something that you would say to them that you wish you kind of got told before joining?
That it's worth its weight in gold, that it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. I mean, the amount of value that you get is bonkers. Yeah, I would say just don't even hesitate. If you're in the WordPress space, even if you're just running a small business, there's just so many nuggets that you can take. And there's always these added tracks and value and webinars and these learning opportunities that are there and just built into the program. The Facebook group in and of itself is totally worth it.
Yeah, love that. It's going to become the quote, within itself, it is bonkers. We're going to love that. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show and, sharing about your business and your journey, because I know it's something that is quite personal to a lot of our elevators, and this is a segment of our program which we're really excited to release. So a massive thank you for coming on and sharing a glimpse behind your world.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. This is great.
Excellent. Well, until next time, go elevate. Well, I hope you enjoyed this podcast as much as I did making it. I always love meeting our elevators and hearing their stories, and you can just feel it in their voice that they're so excited about what life is like now. If you want to know more about the WP Elevation Business Blueprint program, then head over to wpelevation.com. And while you're there, check out the podcast and be sure to subscribe and leave us a review at wpelevation.com/iTunes. That's really a way that we know and letting everyone else know what the WP Elevation Business Podcast is all about. The more that we can share this podcast with others, the more that the entire industry can kind of rise and reach new levels. Well, until the next episode, go elevate.